Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage in the very pleasant state of Maine on this Friday afternoon. It's low 70 degrees, the sun is out, no humidity to speak of. Beautiful. This morning it was high 40 degrees. I had a sweatshirt on with my shorts, my favorite combination of attire. But you didn't come here for my details about my fashion sense or the weather. Today is a shop update. I'm going to ramble about a few things on this Friday afternoon. Starting with, I don't know if you call it buyer's remorse, personal fear for my country. What have I done? I am part of the problem today. Specifically this. I mentioned many times in the past my, enjoyment of late night shopping while I'm in the bargain bin. I found this Proform 750 carburetor. Normally sells for about $550. It was $330, brand new in the box. I bought it. Now out in the shed I have two 750 Holleys that I picked up that are well used, need to be rebuilt. They're the old secondary linkage style, and they don't match each other. I had a perfect pair that I put on that 505 Chevy that I've been saving because initially the 400 small block, I was going to put a tunnel ram on it and a pair of 750s or a pair of whatever dual pumpers I could get, double pumpers. I end up using the carburetors in the 505 Chevy. I have not found a decent tunnel ram because the heads I'm putting on that motor have large ports and need to be able to fit a 1206 Velcro gasket, so I wasn't sure what I was going to do for an induction system, and now I guess I know. The single ram, if you will. Because if it wasn't for all these dyno results, in the past we used to assume a lot, maybe now they test the heck out of everything, and this will probably run with the tunnel ram up to a certain extent. I think the tunnel ram will eventually outperform it, but it's probably close. So visually, if that means anything, I like looking at dual carburetors on everything. I always have. And I'm willing to put up with it, with the extra involved in setting that up. So the carburetor was a deal, and I bought it, and it has a lot of nice features that the Holleys don't have. I now have because I have this carburetor and Proform. I'm not ashamed of that. I mean, Chevrolet Performance, most of their stuff is Proform. I'm not necessarily a fan of the purple, but you can't be picky when there's only one to choose from. If they had two of these, I would have bought two. So now I have interchangeable air bleeds. That is something that Holley offers on their Pro Series, I believe, but their run-of-the-mill double pumpers do not. I mentioned in the Holley carb rebuild I did a few years ago for the 383 Chevrolet crate engine that I put in the Nova. Well, in theory, it's a crate engine. It actually came out of a boat. It was used, but go back and watch the video. Anyway, I had an old 750, and I overhauled it. And I talked about if you have to open the primaries too far with the idle speed screw, it's going to, one, flow too much fuel. It's going to open up the transfer slot, and it's going to make your idle mixture screws useless. You need to be able to open the secondary butterflies slightly if you have a large camshaft or a lot of airflow at idle. The Proform now gives you an external screw to do just that. So you have idle speed screws on both sets of blades. That's awesome. It's also 4-corner idle mixture. So that is a nice feature. I like the windows on both sides of the bowl for the float level. The bolt float adjustment screws, the locking screw on a Holley is typically thin and it does strip out really easy. This one they have a round head on, so that's pretty nice. It comes with all its information, jets, idle air bleeds, primary nozzle, secondary nozzles, needle and seat, and the power valve. So a nice carburetor for the money. I'm not sure I'd pay full price, but even $550 for a brand new carb, I guess in today's world, isn't too bad. I'm curious that now that Edelbrock is putting out a 4150 series Holley, duplicate or tribute or whatever they're going to call it, copy. That should be interesting. Edelbrock took over the Carter line a long time ago, and I have a pair of those going on the 377 because my dual quad low rise intake that I'm putting on the 377 only fits a Carter style carburetor. So the intake manifold that I have here is an offshore copy of what appears to be an Edelbrock Super Victor. So that's when I start to feel kind of guilty. I wanted an extremely tall, this is a 6-inch carb height manifold. It's important, I'm not going to make huge power, but if you're buying a manifold, starting from scratch, taking into consideration, a lot of your old single planes just look like an X and the runner meets the head at an angle. Well, this one gives you enough room because it's high enough it actually curves it, so when it's headed down the port it's actually going straight already. So if you again watch a lot of dyno videos, they stress that that's important when choosing an intake. So this manifold does have that. It has a drop-in flow restrictor and a slot that's popular on some of the high-end manifolds. This manifold, if it was a real Edelbrock Super Victor, is about $450. I paid less than $200 for this manifold. It has the dual distributor clamps. It has the ability to flow coolant into the back. So I'm going to research that because this is going on the 400, which probably has, engineered in some coolant flow, potential issues. So if this is beneficial, I'm going to plumb that in. I need to do some research on that to determine if that's a good move or not. I believe it is. The center bolt holes are oval on this manifold, and they give you they give you 2 sets of 4 adapters for bolt style, because the later year Chevy bolts, the center ones went straight down instead of on an angle. And while researching this manifold, I see the Edelbrock Super Victor gives you an oval hole on all positions. Maybe to make it fit a Vortec, maybe they plug the middle, I don't know. So I know a lot of the new cylinder heads are drill and tapped for the Vortex style manifold or the traditional Chevy style manifold. Casting wise, this manifold probably looks good on camera, but it's rough up close. Like I could cut myself on the where they milled the holes oval. I had it upside down, port matching it to the 1206 Felpro gasket, which is pretty much the standard that all manifolds are cast to nowadays. They're bigger to match the bigger ports in the heads. And it's going to require quite a bit of gasket matching, but you would have to do that anyway. I mean, at least the opening of the ports falls inside the gasket, so they didn't totally mess up the manifold. I mean, it's a good copy, I guess. It's probably not as pretty, and the fact that it's a copy offshore, which, I guess it's not my deal to, pursue justice on that, but I became part of the problem when I bought it. Now, Jegs sells this manifold. I don't know who makes it. Speedmaster makes one that looks very similar to it, but their price point's higher, so I don't know if it's different or not. So that's that. I have it. I'm gonna make it work. Right off the bat, I had ordered a bunch of carb studs on eBay, and those showed up, and those were Speedmaster. Anything that's Speedmaster, I keep giving that company a second, a third, a fourth chance, but they continue to disappoint me. In this case, 3 out of the 4 studs threaded into the manifold, and it wasn't the manifold, it was a stud problem. So I chased the threads on that, and then I take the nuts out of the package, and while the stud is 5/16 fine thread on the nut end to hold the carburetor on, that's pretty standard on a carburetor stud. The nuts are 12 millimeter. Now, they actually fit better around the idle mixture screw. An actual 5/16 nut would probably hit that. So in this case, I'll probably leave them. But someday down the road, I'm going to want to pull the carburetor off. I'm going to go at it with a 1/2-inch wrench or 1/2-inch socket and be sad because they're 12 millimeter. Hopefully I have one with me. So that's that on this visual display. It is quite catching, at least from a distance. And once again, I out-talked it. So looking at the amount of time I've already rambled, I guess this is going to be a small block Chevy update, because if you go back and watch, this summer I've been building a 377 small block Chevy and a 421, which I just called the 400 small block a minute ago. That's what the manifold's for. For the 377, I have the, again, I'm the problem, the offshore copy of this beautiful Moroso oil pan, and I cut the corners off it to clear the steering on the 56 Chevy. So it was a good oil pan to do that with. To modify, this one I'm going to install on the 421 without modifying it, because this fits every other chassis except the 60 up to 67 Chevy too. A 68 and over and up, and a Camaro and everything else, this pan fits. So they claim it fits the Tri-5 Chevy, even though I had some steering clearance, but that could be my problem because I put the motor where I wanted it and maybe not where it was originally. So this pan is much nicer than the offshore version of it. It actually has a windage tray of sorts. It has a magnetic drain plug that's rear facing, which is kind of nice. I say that, I hope it clears the scatter shield if you have one, but I'm sure you'll be able to get it in and out. The depth is 8 1/4, which fits the milling oil pump that I already have. So this, in my mind, redeems me somewhat. I have the same pan, the copy of it, on the dummy engine in the 56 wagon, but I want to continue to work on the 421 small block. And once again, this was in the bargain bin. And this is claimed to clear more stroke in the crankshaft than I currently have in the 421. So, and I have to notice that the entire pan, the studs and everything, hang right in the pan. There's no meat on the other side, and probably going to take some special nuts to clear the pan rail. So we'll see about that. Other than that, it looks like a good pan. Now I have installed the Chevrolet windage tray on the main studs on the 377. I've already put that pan that I modified on, and we're good. I gotta see, one, if it'll clear, and two, if I even need to do that on the 421. I haven't done it yet. I bought more main studs. I was going to change it over, but I believe that is going to take care of it. I didn't want to leave nothing in there, so on the 377 I used the factory GM windage tray, which is, from a position, it's in about the same. Function-wise, I'm not sure which one's more efficient, but more research. That's what I'll do. Some days like today, when I come into the shop, I have this scale in my head is all the things that I need to do. And over here you got the things you want to do. Some days like today, I just let myself do whatever catches my attention. So I hadn't been out in the shop more than 3 minutes when I saw the FedEx truck pulling out, and I was excited that maybe I got my spool a day early for the rear end project. I could finish that up. Well, I didn't. What I got was another load of transmission parts. I got a front pump, 6 rear servos, and some miscellaneous linkage. So next thing I know, I spent the afternoon, rebuilding the pump. I dreamed up a tool I'm going to make, because I'm always, when I drill the converter restrictor, the brass grub screw or set screw is all it is, but I tap the pump and then I screw in the brass set screw, and then I drill that in the pump, and that brass goes everywhere and it's hard to clean out. The tapping doesn't hardly make a mess. So, very simple. I could weld a nut to a piece of metal. I'm just going to tap a piece of metal so I can put all my set screws in there and just drill them out ahead of time. So, simple tool. Don't know why I didn't think of it before. Instead, I've been cleaning brass out of the pumps for years now. So, I enjoy the assembly part of the transmission the best. I think I've mentioned that. The grueling hours and hours it takes to get all the pieces, the sub-assemblies ready. So days like today, I was like money in the bank, I'm going to put this pump together. It'll be ready to go, cutting hours off the actual build time of the transmission. So I have lots of cases. I could do this every day for a month and I'd be really sitting pretty. That probably won't happen. But if I had all these sub-assemblies ready to go, boy, I could really build some stuff. But most of the time, it's, one piece at a time. I get the case ready and then I just numb out day after day and work on sub-assemblies. It's funny, in one of the recent videos I was saying that, didn't mind having a Holley that had been left outside and ratty because I was tired of fussing over every detail. I'm also the same guy that fusses over every detail in building a transmission, so it's appealing when you look at it. It lives its life under the floorboard and hardly anybody ever sees it. So, but it looks nice when it's sitting on the bench. But I have a goal that I hope I achieve before snow flies, to give myself more room in here. Like I mentioned, none of it's junk. It just needs to be, well, hopefully you're going to utilize that trailer that I'm dragging home maybe tomorrow. And I'm not sure, originally I was going to leave it open so I could put a project vehicle in it, and that doesn't seem smart because I have stuff that needs to be stored. So stuff that is, nothing a mouse could live in. That's what I like about the steel storage containers. When I close that baby up, you hardly even get a spider in there. That thing is airtight. It's seaworthy. Whereas everything else, including this garage, mice can get into it, or I don't mind. I live amongst the spiders. We bought a boat between the dock spiders and it's got over 100 feet of aluminum railing. Man, you should see the spiders on that thing. So they claim in your life right now, watching this video, you're 6 feet from a spider. Well, I think I'm less than that. But I don't like mice getting in stuff. I wouldn't mind the actual critter if they wouldn't, pee and poop on everything. So, but they do, and they chew stuff. So it's a constant battle. They were here first. I came along secondary, and I live in the middle of the woods. So that's to be expected, I guess. I wouldn't. Well, I guess even in the city, there's rodent problems, so you can't get away from it. But I'm really rambling now. I hope you have a great weekend. It's Friday night. It's 5 o'clock at this point. I'm going to call it quits. Well, I'll be back out later probably doing something. But I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch you in a couple days.